And this is a critical point that I want to pause on and repause on, that losing sales headcount is natural. It's something that you need to have in your team. Healthy teams have all types of sales attrition. And so when you think about sales attrition and the type of sales attrition that occurs on the team, then one of the things that we need to think about is, how do we get ahead of that? How do I backfill quickly? And even more importantly, as we sit down and do our annual planning, how do I know what that number is? Because I can tell you that when sales attrition occurs and there's open headcount, the sales manager has to step in to fill that gap. And the average sales manager today is covering 1.5 to 2 times the quota of an account executive on their team. And when they do that, the challenge is it becomes a law of diminishing returns, because they're getting paid in order to get other people to quota. But when they start carrying a quota, when you're a player coach, Jim Delaney, former CEO at MarketWire and a coach of mine, once remarked to me, he said, Raleigh, you can either play or you can coach, but you can't do both at the same time, because you can't see the field when you're throwing the ball, and you can't see what's happening if you can't look at the tape. And we need our sales managers to be focused on deal coaching and rep development, and we need to get them out of the game of closing 1.5 to 2 times. So how do we get ahead of this attrition? How do we plan for it? How do we goal accordingly? Because if we're going to have a gap, and I guarantee you, most of you listening to this do, you're going to need to account for that next year, so that we can either give over assignment to our frontline sales reps, or we can start to build on realistic goals or spiffs or targets or commission plans in order to incentivize our reps to performance. So why is it that sales roles are different than other roles when it comes to turnover? Well, one of the reasons is that we have, in no other role in corporate America does a rep or any employee so early in their career have such a direct impact on the top line sales goal. If you think about it, if you hire in a developer or a coder or an admin or an accountant, and they come into the organization, the benefit is within a day or a week, you know whether they can do their job or not. Challenge with sales is it might take you up to 3 to 6 months to find out if a sales rep can actually produce. But when they don't produce, whether it's the accountant or the IT person or HR or finance or someone in production and operation, when they don't produce, yeah, it hurts, but it doesn't hurt to the term of the quota. So the average account executive today carries a quota of $50,000 a month. That's just turnover, software as a service, churn and burn, account executive, average B2B sales. So every month that they're gone costs the company $50,000. So turnover costs a lot of money. Now, especially in these early career sales roles, these are the ones where we really have to be aware, because we expect to have turnover in these roles. And there's really 3 ways that it happens. The first is voluntary separation. You know, somebody comes into your company, you spend a year or 2 coaching them up, and then they go across the street to go work for another organization to make $10,000 more because you didn't have a promotion path. This is a reality of the sales game for us in sales management. It's one of the reasons to have promotion paths in place. I'm going to give you at the end of this presentation a very quick overview on a number of tools that I use and that we're going to have subsequent trainings on. But for today, just keep in mind that voluntary separation is going to occur. Of course, there's involuntary separation. Involuntary separation, you hire sales reps, early career with a couple of years experience. The challenge is there's no universally recognized sales credential or degree. If you tell me you have a degree in chemistry, I know what that means. If you tell me you have a degree in sales, you might as well tell me you learned how to box by watching Rocky. It doesn't mean a whole lot to me. And so that makes it extremely challenging to predict success. As a matter of fact, 1 in 5 fail. And then finally, the piece that I always forgot to put in there is internal promotion. If you have an early career sales team or any sales team, you want it to be a bench of talent for the rest of the organization. You want people from your team to be pulled out in order to give in cush jobs or great jobs in other parts of the organization. So someone going into sales operations or sales finance or whatever it's going to be, or they're just going to become an account executive, becomes a manager. Either way though, the challenge is once they leave your team, guess who inherits that quota? The frontline sales manager. And guess who almost always forgets to account for that? Guys like me who sat down in order to create the sales quotas in the first place. And so one of the shocking statistics that I learned was that in early career sales talent, roughly half of college graduates go into some type of revenue role, whether it's a BDR role, some type of marketing production role, account executive sales role. But after 2 years, of those 50%, only 10% remain. So who bears the cost for that again? We do. As we talked about, it's not an easy role to fill, and there's a lot of reasons for that. One is that we have a rolling annual attrition rate generally of 25 to 40% of our team, meaning on a sales team of 10 to 12 people, we're going to lose 2 to 4 people every year. And you may say, whoa, I don't lose 2 to 4 people a year because I fire them. You might not, but I guarantee you lose 1 or 2 people to leave your organization because either retire out, move on, or they make a decision to go to another part of the company. The other thing is certain times a year, it's really hard to find sales talent. Yeah, early career sales talent from May to maybe September, it's easy. They graduate in college, you can pick them up there. Beginning of the year, you may pick a few people up who were just leaving for the annual bonus of their other company. But on average, it takes 60 to 90 days from the second that somebody goes on a performance plan or turns in their resignation until you have somebody in seat. And then once you do have somebody in seat, it takes them up to 9 months in order to ramp. So nobody comes in day one and sells $50,000 in product. When I was director of sales at MarketWire, it took on average 9 months for a rep of ours to go from $0 to consistent productivity at $50,000 a month. Now, they may hit it earlier, and we certainly goaled them earlier at 6 months, but the reality is that not every rep did that. And so I had to bake 9 months into my ramp time for productivity. And then finally, it's not a matter of getting applications to the role, but sorting through them. Over 300 applications per role is what I was on and usually getting. And yet the challenge that I had with that was I didn't know which one of those could actually do the role. We've touched on that earlier. So when I'm sitting down to calculate the attrition rate, I need to know a few things. The first thing that I need to know is I need to understand and calculate my company's rolling attrition rate. So you can reach out to HR for this if you don't know and you're new, or you can reach out to your sales leadership team if you're a senior leader and find out how many people they lost on their team this year or last year. But you want to do it as a rolling 12-month average. And so you may, if most of us know how to do that, you may want to Google it if not. But it's instead of just being a flat 12 months, it's an average over 12 months because it's either going to trend up or down. The second thing you need to know is the time the position remains open in terms of weeks and months. This isn't the, oh, I think this needs to be a number that you know, and your HR can help with this. But think about from the time that you know you need to backfill this position until the time you have a qualified candidate trained in NC, meaning they're through onboarding. So that can be a long period of time. And then finally, once they're on board and they're in your fleet and they're out there selling, how long does it take that individual to become productive? Those are all important considerations as we go through this. So I'm going to give you an example here of a typical sales rep quota, and I'm going to tell you a deal that I took one time. So I was at MarketWire, this back then. I had 12 account executives on my team budgeted. And if you know your frontline sales manager, generally speaking, you never have fully 12, but we actually did. You generally have 1 to 2 open headcount. You have 2 to 3 that are on plan. You have 2 or 3 high performers and the rest in the middle. We had a target of $50,000 a month. So annually, that came up to $600,000 per year, or a $7.2 million target for our team of 12. Now I had a manager at the time, a VP of sales, and he said, Raleigh, look, I like to build manager over assignment in or sales buffer in for my managers because you're going to lose people, you're going to have attrition, you need to be prepared for that. So I'm going to give you a 5% buffer. So on a $7.2 million quota, that meant I only had to set $6.8 million in order to hit my top line sales goal. That's a pretty good deal. And I was really excited about it. And I took that deal. But was that $350,000 buffer enough now knowing what we know about sales attrition? Well, we're going to find out.